Okay, let's get this party started. So as I mentioned in the previous video footage, the two sides of the body blank were put through a planer thicknesser and indeed a jointing plane down at the local timber yard, which is a great help. So even though that was done, just running my fingers along it, I can feel that there's very slight ridges that are left from the planing blades, which we're going to need to just address. Very, very simple thing really. The other thing I'm going to do now is just offer the two sides together. This is sat on a nice flat surface, and that gives me the opportunity literally just to walk around the blank and eyeball the seam and to see how tight it is. And I'll be honest with you, that's actually pretty darn good. So we're not going to have to do much work to this at all in order to get it in a state whereby we can get ready to glue it, which is imminent. Great stuff. So yeah, that's all good. So literally all I'm going to do is just get a leveling beam. This is a fret leveling beam from the wonderful Crimson Guitars, which I've just put a little bit of sandpaper along. I'm just literally going to knock the high spots off of the edges there, which has been left by the planing blades, and it's not really much to do at all. The other thing this does do is sanding, unlike blades, will always drag the fibres of the wood up a little bit, and that will actually help us, because when we get round to putting some glue on these two surfaces, the fibres standing up will allow the glue to seep better into the wood, and indeed will make the bond a lot stronger. So the action of just giving it a gentle rub down with some sandpaper in itself is a good idea. No gaps in there. That'll do for me, chef. That'll do for me. Okay, let's get this body blank glued into one solid lump. So a little bit of mindfulness then. Before we start, we make sure we get everything we need to hand, so that we don't end up running around the workshop midway through the process. The glue we're going to be using is quite simply Titebond original wood glue. It's great stuff. I mean, there's all different kinds of Titebond. Some are waterproof, and I'm not quite sure why somebody would use a different one. The original Titebond works perfectly well for me. I tend to use it for everything. I do use it for everything. Works well. Make sure you protect your workbench with some paper, or as I've done, a towel. Glue is going to drip out of this seam, and if it gets on your bench, hey, you can sort it out, but yeah, easy to prevent rather than cure, as with all things. And what we're going to do is, firstly, we're going to set up a dry clamp. We're just going to clamp the thing together without any glue, just to make sure that when we go for the big one, we know that all is going to be well, all is going to be right with the world. Somebody once said to me, you can never have enough clamps, hats or shoes, and I totally agree. If you're going to build guitars, you will end up owning more clamps than a clamp shop. Alright then, so let's make a start. Again, not rocket science. You can probably work out what I'm doing here at the moment. It's pretty obvious. We've got some nice long sash clamps that are going to add lateral pressure to the two boards. Okay, I've just put those like that for a minute. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's do it this way. One of the things that you will find with clamps is that when you tighten them up, they have a tendency to pull in one direction or the other. This one is obviously pulling in that direction, and it will tend to make the board want to kind of lift up like that. They'll put more pressure on the underside of the clamp than on the top side. So I'm just literally putting a little bit of gentle pressure just to start it off, just to hold it in place. Getting stuck on the towel. That ain't no good. Right then. Let's get these bad boys lined up. Come on then, let's do ya. Great stuff. So that's literally just finger tight now. And we can, there we go. Get them to the right level. And then what I tend to do is to just get some cheap little G-clamps and just hold the seams down. If you do that top and bottom, that'll stop them from riding up. Hold them in line. That's pretty much perfect. I mean, there will still be a little bit of sanding and nonsense. That's cool. Once the board has been glued together, and now I'm just going to get another couple of clamps and we put them on in the opposite direction. So now we're kind of counteracting the tendency for the clamp to pull in that direction, by adding the two sash clamps on the top. Every action has an equal and opposite. This is that. Okay, keep them nice and parallel. And let's just have a dry run. Now, contrary to what some people think, you don't actually need masses of pressure in order to do this. You just literally need enough pressure to squeeze the boards together, and eventually we'll get some squeeze out with the glue, and provided we get a bead of glue that runs the full length of the seam, we know that it's making good contact. So I'm just pushing down on the top brackets now, top clamps now, just to make sure that they're making contact with the top, and that is absolutely perfect. Wonderful. So we should now be able to pick that up. Have a look on the back, and sure enough, I can't even see the seam. Super duper. So, happy now with our dry clamp. We shall get to the sticky business. Loosen them off, and take them out and stick them straight back in where they started. So just loosen those off. Super duper. I've got a wonderful spreader for spreading glue. It's called my finger. So just a little bit of precaution. I put some rubber gloves on. Super duper. I'll tell you what, there's a couple of schools of thought from the point of view of whether you should put glue on both sides or just one side. I don't actually think it matters. I think as long as you've got enough on there, one side will do it. So we'll just take a good dollop of Titebond. Always better to have a little bit too much than a little bit too little, a little bit too little, not quite enough, too little, whatever. Wonderful. Don't forget to pop the cap back on your Titebond as soon as possible, and then spread it, and be very, very diligent about this. Make sure that literally every surface is covered in glue. The last thing you want is areas of wood that aren't glued. It is the route to the dark side. This is probably incredibly boring, watching a slightly overweight middle-aged man spreading glue on a piece of wood. It's amazing what people will watch on YouTube, and there's probably something incredibly interesting on another channel if you'd like to go look. But this kind of stuff blows my hair back. Super duper! Right then, so little good generous covering of Titus Bondus. Get it back into position again, and let's clamp the living daylights out of this here piece of wood. Again, it's just from a standing start, just enough pressure to get the two pieces to link together. And wipe that little bit of excess off of there. Mucky business. And little safety clamps right across the edge of the seam just to hold the two jointed edges together to stop them from running away from each other. And then the parallel clamp, to tell you what, let's get a little bit of kitchen roll. Is already squeezed out and we haven't put any pressure on. Wonderful. If you get the opportunity to clean glue off of the surface whilst it's still wet, take it, because you'll end up having to take it off with a chisel or a scraper or something something metal and diggy later on in the event if it's dried, and Type-On cures very hard, which obviously is a really good thing, but point of view of tidying up, it's a pain in the what's-it. Superb. So we're going to get some more squeeze out now, so again we'll probably end up having a bit of a tidy, pushing down. Great stuff. There's a reasonable amount of force, but I'm not going to try and get the thing to split in half. Just enough force that you're happy that the tension is sufficient to hold it together nicely. Groovy, I reckon that's not far off. So again, while we have the opportunity, let's clean the sticky stuff off. There's still going to be some cleaning up to do once we've finished, and we should, famous last words, be able to pick this baby up. Look at that, see all the cat that's falling out the back there on my workbench, so be mindful and put something down, otherwise you'll mess up your beautiful workbench. I've just noticed there was a little bit of give in that clamp there. As I picked it up, it's obviously shifted, it's probably not quite square on it. We'll soon rectify that. Let's give it another half turn. Check. Give them all a check, because I have just moved it, so there is the possibility they could have shifted. That's all good. Wonderful. And that, my lovelies, is a body blank glued. And the great thing about using sash clamps, or any other clamp for that matter, is that once you've done that, you can set it to one side, leave that one overnight, and get on with something else.